All right, let's get to our topic for today. We've got two. Let's get to them. Using good themes for Easter and crafting stronger Easter sermons. Two themes. Two things. First, let me do some reminders. Let me do some reminders about preaching during this season, Easter season. Remember, it's a season, it's not just a day. Number one, try to get some rest. Try to get some rest. I know it's hard, but try anyway. Try anyway. Try to get some rest, a little bit of exercise, drink a great deal of water, and try not to enter the pulpit for if you're doing the 7 last sayings of Christ or preaching on Easter Sunday. Try not to do that when you're worn out. Put off some of those meetings, some of those issues you're dealing with at home. If you could put some of that stuff off for a moment, some of those fake church crises, and try to get excited. Get excited about the season, and you can do that best when you are at your best, not worn out. And also, as a reminder, begin preparing, if you have not already, your leaders. Begin preparing your leaders, from your ushers to your nursery staff and your parking lot people. Yes, you always want your church to be welcoming, but things can be testing when a church gets crowded, when parking lot gets crowded. So make sure that you are preparing your people. And you might want to, just in terms of preparing your people, do a selfie. Do a selfie or several as people are coming in, as people are leaving, just to let them know that you are glad that they came. Try something different. Try something different. Try doing a selfie. I don't know why I'm sweating so this morning, but I guess it happens. Try something different to let your visitors know that you appreciated them coming. All right, and as another reminder, get your online stuff in order. Don't just stream and that's it. Have an online plan for Easter. Have an online plan for your 7 last sayings of the cross if you're doing that. And make sure that you have a plan that for the month after Easter. The month after Easter. Don't let people just come and come online and say that they like the sermon or leave a comment and that's it. Don't waste that opportunity online. Get your people in order. Get an online team if necessary to reach out to people, maybe some people who have never been online before, or some of your members who you rarely hear from. Take advantage of that great opportunity and start inviting people now. Tell all of your members, start inviting people now. It's not bad to invite people to church for Easter. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So you should start to do it as a pastor, all of your other clergy in the church, your leaders in the church. Start inviting people now. Yes, right. Tell your co-workers, tell your people to tell their co-workers if they haven't come at any time that they would love to have them on Easter Sunday. Next, place in your bulletin, your order of worship, your programs, or etc. This is part of your preparation. I'm still on preparation. Initiatives in which your church is engaged. Easter Sunday is a great time to tell guests what you do, to tell them who you are and what you are about. People are looking for churches that are doing something. So make sure that you don't just do the bulletin as usual. Highlight an important initiative or two, that are what, your church, tell people this is what our church is engaged in. And if you have a particularly great initiative for children, this is a great time to talk about it. Talk about it in your bulletin and before the sermon. Let people know, let your guests know, online and those in the seats, this is what our church is doing. Okay, let them know. So prepare for visitors, like I said, the Sunday of and the month after. So make sure you can tell yourself what is your month-long plan after Easter. Now, I know some of you go on vacation, and I get that. But you can still have others to institute parts of the plan. Don't let just Easter just go by and you not take advantage of winning more souls and better assimilating disciples into your church. Okay? Now, let's talk about just also, if you want to make your Easter message even stronger, connect it to an activity. I'm still on preparation now. Connect it to an activity that can symbolize what you plan to preach about. If it's at all possible, connect it to an activity. Whatever you plan to preach about, see if you can connect that to an activity. For instance, having your church visit a nursing home or a juvenile detention facility, and of course you have to plan the visits. Don't do them as a one-time show. But how much stronger would your sermon be? Let's say you preach about Nipsey. And some of you will know he was a young man who was recently murdered in Los Angeles. Entrepreneur, rapper, etc. But how much stronger would a sermon about Nipsey be if you could say, I was recently at a juvenile detention facility, and I saw in the faces of young men and women who they can be and their dreams. And our church is going to work with them to help make that happen. How much stronger would your sermon be? Now, there are 100 of other things that you can do. That's just one that I thought about because young people and incarceration, that's important to me. Okay, and finally, as you're preparing for Easter, the Easter season, the 7 last sayings of Christ, it's okay to have a hashtag. That's right, I said it and I meant it. It is okay to have a hashtag for your Easter sermon messages or for the 7 last sayings. Make sure your hashtag is short and then put it everywhere. Put it everywhere, from your bulletin to Facebook to Instagram to Twitter. Have your young people put it around as well. Put it on your website, on the marquee, outside your church. Use every opportunity. We're going to learn, I hope, to use everything that the culture provides to do what we can do to make more disciples for Christ. We're not just going to fuss about stuff and etc. We're going to use it, and that hashtag, I believe, is a great idea that you can use. Now, let's go to the themes for Easter. Themes for Easter. Number 1, make sure people know your theme. Quit preaching all over the place. Quit preaching all over the place. People should know what our one main thing is. When they leave your service, they shouldn't say, oh, it was good, and someone says, well, what did the pastor preach about? They should know one thing should remain with them when they leave, and they should know at least one main thing that you're asking them to do to strengthen their relationship with God after having heard your sermon. Okay? Now, I'll say a little bit more about that one main thing later, but I wanted to start with that. Now, let's talk about some possible themes for Easter. By theme, I mean, what is it in your head that's in your head? What is driving you as you're preparing your sermon? You know, what one heading can you hang over your sermon that totally encompasses it? What one or two words, maybe three, totally sum up your sermon? Now, there's some old themes that still work for the Easter season. They still work. Hope still works as a theme. Love still works as a theme for Easter. Providence, which means all things work together for good, for those who love God and are called according to the purposes of God. And that's what providence means. And redemption. All of those are good old things that still work. All you need to remember is to make sure that people can recognize your theme. Okay? Now, though we gave some of the old themes that still work, let's consider some new themes. And you can pick the ones you like and the ones you don't use. A new theme that you might want to consider is hood love. Hood love. We used to say ghetto fabulous and things like that. And by it, I simply mean care of the masses. Most of the people that we care about, that we preach to, are poor, and they live in the hood. That's right, they live in the hood. So consider hood love as a theme. Not as anything negative, but as a way of saying I know my people, I relate to my people, I connect to my people. A second possible theme, how about robust resurrection? Robust resurrection, and by this I mean a resurrection that lasts beyond Easter Day or the Easter season. In fact, it's the type of resurrection that you are pushing for people to see throughout their entire lives. Robust resurrection. Consider that as a theme in your head as you're preparing a sermon. You could also, another possible theme is me too. Me too, or the church too. And yes, I am referencing the role of women in the church and women being treated better and respected more. Most of the people who are going to show up at your church, online, Easter Sunday, they will be women and girls. So that's one to consider. Another possible new theme. How about less blood and more transformation? Less blood and more transformation. I know we love the blood still works. I know it was the blood. But ask yourself, at a time when you are most often in communities where there is so much bloodshed, isn't there consideration that needs to be given to? And it doesn't mean that you are putting aside or have something negative to say about the blood of Christ. That's not the point. The point is connecting to your people. Less blood, more transformation. Consider that as you're preparing your sermon. And then for some of you, you might want to use as a theme a creation resurrection. A creation resurrection. We don't preach enough about the environment and all of God's creation. So you may want to consider that as a theme as you're preparing your message. Those are just some. And I'm sure you have some things that you can come up with on your own. What I am pushing is that we start to make better use of our imagination in preaching. We start to make better use of our imagination. God gave it to us. We need to stretch it and learn to use it. Hood love, robust resurrection, me too, less blood, more transformation, and a creation resurrection. Okay? Now, whatever your theme, whatever one you choose, hope, love, etc., stick to it. Stick to it. And just preach one theme. One theme should run through your sermon. Not 3, 4, 5. One for Easter And if you are a part of a 7 last words service, one thing, just one thing. You may even want to write it at the top of every sheet of paper. Whatever you do, make sure you have one. Now, let's talk about crafting stronger sermons, period, during this season. Crafting stronger sermons. Number one, be strategic. Be strategic in terms of what you're going to preach. And by that I mean get together with your minister of music, your music team, plan the music that should go with your sermon, and plan for your members and guests as you are writing your sermon. You want a seamless message that is linked to everything else that will happen during the service. It should be seamless from the opening moment to the benediction. It should be seamless. Connect some dots. Don't have the music over here, the ushers over there, the welcome over here, etc. It should be seamless. Everything. Don't chance it. Plan it. Plan it. From the plan it. Talk to your entire team, your clergy, all of your leaders. Talk to them. Another thing about crafting a stronger sermon for this season and hopefully all seasons to come, practice saying your entire sermon out loud. Let me say that again. Practice saying your entire sermon out loud. And I know that there are those of you who are saying, Doc, but I don't preach from a manuscript. That's fine. I didn't say you had to take it into the pulpit. I mean, write it down and practice saying it out loud. Okay? And I know some of you have been preaching 10, 20, and 30 years, and that's not what you do, but try it. Try it. We only get better when we are open to trying something new. As a matter of fact, even though you've been preaching 10, 20, 30 years, your voice might be shifting. Your voice might be shifting. Your cadence might be slowing down. And you will get a better idea of that if you say your sermon out loud. Just say it out loud. Just say it out loud one time all the way through. And you will be able to hear what you didn't nail the way you wanted to. A point that you spent too much time on. Because you want a balanced sermon. You don't want to spend 15 minutes on one point and 5 minutes on your next point. And you can see that when you write it down. When you write it down, okay? You want a balanced sermon. You want to spend a couple of minutes on that introduction. You want to spend 7 to 10 minutes on your first move, 7 to 10 on your second, and for your third, the same. And then you want to spend the last couple of minutes concluding in a great way. But you want a balanced message. Try writing it down and saying it out loud. Okay. Next, in terms of a stronger message, please know that this is not the Sunday or the season to preach some new belief that you just learned or just figured out or decided upon. This is not that Sunday. Do that in Bible study first and then perhaps in a sermon series. Not on Easter. Not on Easter. This is not the Sunday to do as one of our most beloved theologians, whose name I won't even call, did. He decided he was going to do something bold and not mention Jesus on Easter Sunday. Don't do it. Don't do it. This is not that Sunday. This is not that Sunday for something you just figured out and are working through theologically, ethically, culturally, personally. This is not that Sunday, okay? Number 3, get some strong illustrations. Strong illustrations. Get some strong illustrations. And if you can't find any, use it. That's right. If you can't find a strong illustration that made you sit up and pay attention, don't use it. Find some stories, some jokes, something else. No weak illustration. And if you had to explain your illustration too long, guess what? It's weak. It's weak. The people should get it from the moment you say it. You shouldn't have to do, I said that to say. Okay? Do the illustration, nail the illustration, move on. Move on. Okay? Now, unless it's the theme of your sermon, this is not the Sunday to explain your views on women preachers, on women's roles in society, on the LGBT community, on sex or hip-hop, or the problems you have with millennials. This is not that Sunday. This is not that Sunday. This is not that Sunday. This is not a Sunday for textual harassment. That's with a T. Textual. This is not that Sunday. This is not the Sunday. There's never a Sunday that you should do textual harassment. But just in case you tend to be one of those people doing that, please don't do it on this Sunday. Don't do it on this Sunday. Okay? Don't harass anybody. Let me tell you something. Will Gaffney said on Facebook, Dr. Will Gaffney, and I thought it was worth repeating. Let me repeat what she said. She said the passion narratives on Palm Sunday and Good Friday have been used to incite lethal physical violence against Jews by the church and its ministers. They have also been used to craft violent, anti-Semitic theologies that blame Jews for the death of Jesus and demean and defame Judaism, and they forget about the covenants formed by Jews with God. So, I said that to say, this is not the Sunday to textually harass Jewish people or their faith. This is not that Sunday. Okay, you should never do it, but certainly don't do it on Easter. Okay? No textual harassment of any kind. Write that sermon out and you see yourself fussing, which is what most of you call it. You don't call it harassment, which is what it really is. Take it out. Take it out. Okay, take it out. Next, get some great metaphors. Get some great metaphors. Get some great metaphors. I said earlier, if you can't find a good illustration, and please know, there are a million illustrations online. They're in books. You can download books of illustrations from Amazon. But also get some strong and familiar metaphors. To do this, ask yourself the question, what is the resurrection like? That's right, a metaphor makes something else like something else. It's a comparison technique. Ask yourself the question, what is the resurrection like? Is it like a caterpillar that becomes a butterfly? Is it like the winner no one saw being first at the finish line? Is it like receiving the best gift of your life? Is the resurrection like a fixed fight? A fixed boxing match? Or is the resurrection greater than debt forgiveness? Whatever your metaphor, get you some good metaphors to put in your sermon too. They will only make it stronger. Get you some good metaphors. But whatever your metaphor, make sure that it matches your context. Don't use soccer as one of your metaphors if no one in your church likely plays soccer. If you're preaching to children and youth, yes, I know some of you will be doing children and youth sermons on Easter. make sure that your metaphors match your people. Okay, if you're going to jails to preach, make sure that you use proper metaphors for preaching to those who are incarcerated. Okay, always remember and respect your context. Don't just make the metaphor one that, ooh, I found a great metaphor and I'm going to use it. If it doesn't fit your context, say that. Okay, save that. Now, next, Easter is not the time for a I don't know sermon. It's not that time. There are always texts in the Bible about which we can say, I don't know, we'll understand it better by and by. That's fair. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There's some hard passages in the Bible, and the best we can say as a word of explanation is to say we'll understand it better by and by. But not on Easter. Not on Easter. Not during the 7 last words or the 7 last saying of Christ. Okay? Resurrection is an answer. It's an answer. Please do not get stuck in your head trying to explain some difficult passage and not talk about resurrection. Okay? This is the Sunday for you to know. People will show up on Easter, and as that text says, sir, and we know we would include ma'am, they would see Jesus. They want to see Jesus. They did not come for you to show them confusion and maybe this and maybe that. No. No. Be definitive. If you can't be definitive on any other Sunday, be definitive on Easter Sunday. Okay? Nobody wants to hear you explain your 5 views of the resurrection. Pick one. Pick one. Pick one. Okay? Just pick one. Next, focus. Focus, 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 focus. And you know, I still believe that focus is the biggest problem that preachers have in preaching. But you've got to figure it out for this Sunday. Don't do 5 points. And you know, and I know some of you all do it and you do it regularly. Not this Sunday. Don't do 5 points. If you've got a long text, cut it down. Cut it down. Now, of course, you need to exegete it in the right place. But keep it simple but strong. Simple but strong. Whether you're doing the 7 last sayings or preaching on Easter. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, Pastor Lance Watson, many of you know that name, he preached during the 7 last sayings of Christ at Trinity UCC in Chicago, and his title was, Is There Room in Heaven for a G? Is there room in heaven for a G? Meaning a gangster. Okay? And for 15 minutes, he stayed on that one point. Is there room? Is there room? Is there room? Okay? And it was a powerful, see, I still remember it now. It was a powerful, powerful sermon. Please stay focused on your one main point, whatever it is. You can have great subpoints, but don't try to turn subpoints into your main points and end up with 5 points. Okay? Please stay focused. If your title is Resurrection in the Hood, don't remember the resurrection and forget about the hood. Stay focused. If your title or your resurrection sermon is about overcoming evil and oppression, please talk about how you overcome evil and oppression in the hood. In the hood. Don't do thin preaching and just describe the hood. Everybody knows the hood. They don't really need you to describe the hood. What they they need you to do is to tell them what resurrection can look like in the hood. And if you don't know what resurrection looks like in the hood, don't preach that. Don't preach that. Do not preach that. Let's say if the title of your sermon is Resurrection, Nipsey and Us. That's right. Resurrection, Nipsey and Us. I think I saw somewhere where on some page where someone said they're preaching that. Don't forget the us. Don't preach about Jesus, Nipsey, and forget the us. Whatever it is, in other words, what you're really trying to do is to help your people figure out how they can resurrect their scarred lives. And so Nipsey and how he lived, not just died, can become a metaphor for doing that. Stay focused. Your sermon may be titled Words from Mary about Easter. It may be titled Words from Peter about Easter, or Words from Paul about Easter. In other words, if you select a biblical character and tell the story of Easter through their eyes, stay on resurrection. Do not try to tell the story of their entire time following Jesus. Okay? And everything they thought about Jesus. Stay focused. Stay focused. Next, be robust in your homiletical thinking. If you're ever going to be robust in your homiletical thinking, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, Easter season is the time to do it. Okay? Do not make the resurrection about just one day. I said this earlier. Let me say it again. Resurrection. You're doing robust preaching when you're telling people how they can live into the resurrection all of their life. No one needs a one-day resurrection. That's not what Jesus was about. Jesus was about lifetime resurrection, okay? So don't do any of that one great day kind of preaching. He got up one great day. Tell people how they can get up for the rest of their lives. That's what the resurrection is about. Okay? Be robust in your thinking and preaching about resurrection. Next, whether you are preaching the 7 last sayings or on Easter or to children, young adults, or adults, again, please respect your context. Black children, brown children do not need to be drowned about hearing about blood, more blood. So while you may mention the power of the blood and what it brought about, keep that in mind too. Also, if you're preaching the lectionary, find the resurrection thread. Do not get confused by some convoluted text that were not prepared for your people by your people anyway. Look at all of the readings and the psalm and find that resurrection thread that best fits the theme you have in mind. Find that thread connected to a strong theme. And let me say this, because most often when people choose to preach from the lectionary, they really don't preach all of the passages anyway. They really don't. So if you're not going to be able to find the thread and preach all of the text and the psalm, just pick one. That's right, just pick one lectionary reading and leave it at that. Just pick one. Yeah, you can do that on Easter. You can do that on Easter. And that's better than being unfocused and being all over the place. Okay? That's better. It's better to do that than being unfocused and being all over the place. Okay? Just pick one. That's better than confusing people. Right? Next, whatever, and this is for afterwards. Okay? Whatever did not go the way you wanted it to. Okay? During the 7 last words or an Easter sermon, when you preach it, don't worry about it. Make a note and work on it for the future. Whether you didn't plan well enough for guests, plan well enough online, didn't get the best metaphors, don't wear yourself out over it. Make a note and you will do better next time. Last but not least, and I probably should have said this earlier, 25 to 30 minutes, that's enough for Easter. That's enough. 25 to 30 minutes and let it go. People want to be with their families. You might be serving a meal. You might have had a sunrise service in addition to the regular service. 25 to 30 and let it go. So if you printed it out and you've got more than 10 double-spaced regular margin size 12 font, and you can make it bigger so that you can see it, but first 10 double-spaced pages size 12 font, that's enough. That's enough for Easter. That's enough. That's enough. Okay? That's enough. So, I hope that something I've said has encouraged you and been helpful to you. Also want to say, if you're looking for illustrations, metaphors, try some out on your friends. We ask everything else on Facebook. It's okay. You know, if you don't want people to know it, you know, send people direct messages. But try some of those out on your friends. They'll let you know if they're weak or strong, and pick people with good judgment, people you trust. And no, I don't mean send a bunch of them to me. Send them to your friends and colleagues. They'll be glad to comment. As always, want to thank you for your generosity. If you want to contribute through my Cash App, I appreciate your doing that. And as always, always share the video. Share the video. There are people struggling, trying to get things together for their first time to preach on Easter, their first time to do the 7 last words. Share the video. It won't cost you anything. Some people need to freshen up and make their preaching bolder and more creative. This is the season to do it. Share the video with those people. I'd appreciate it, and they certainly will appreciate it. If it helped you, it will help someone else. Share the video. God bless. I hope that you will have a great week, and I'll see you next time, Monday. The Lord says the same, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, with another session of Preaching and Preachers. God bless.